This is TalkLoudRadio.com.
A deep one for the end zone. Phelan is down there. Oh, he got it! He got it! He got it! Touchdown! Jordan. Oh! A spectacular move by Michael Jordan!
What is going on, guys? All right, welcome to episode 55 of the Armchair Fantasy Show. I'm your host, of course, Jeff Lambert. You can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. Presented, of course, as always, by TalkLoudRadio.com. Coming at you live every Tuesday and Friday night right here on Facebook Live on the GoingFor2.com Facebook page. And we are streaming in the Going For Two app for iOS and Android. I'm here, as always, with my co-host, Mr. Ryan Searfoss. Ryan, how you doing tonight, man?
Fantastic. I'm going to be even better once the Ravens say they're starting Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, you're ripping the jersey tonight, I see.
Yes, sir.
Let's go. Lamar Jackson to start this week. That would be awesome. I'd love to see that. And then maybe y'all will trade, or maybe y'all will pick up Le'Veon Bell in the offseason and have Lamar Jackson and Le'Veon Bell.
I want Mark Ingram.
You want Mark Ingram over Le'Veon Bell?
No, but I think Ingram's going to be cheaper.
Yeah.
And I think he's a physical runner, which I want.
Yep.
Not somebody who just dances, which Alex Collins turned into, even though he's all power last year.
Yep. I don't know what
Very
happened to him.
frustrated fan.
Definitely. How was your fantasy weekend?
Pretty good. Scored a lot of points in my leagues I'm in the running for playoffs in. So anything I won in anything that mattered.
Good deal.
So I'm pretty happy about it.
Good deal,
had
yes.
a 90-point win in my home dynasty league, which always feels good.
Nice. Yeah, I had a pretty big win in my dynasty league as well. Put up 206 points, which was my highest point total this year so far. So definitely did good this weekend. All right, man. Well, we got a lot of things to talk about, so let's go ahead and just jump right into the top stories from this previous week. We'll start here with James Conner. Looks like he will play this week. He had a concussion, of course, in the game on Thursday night. But does this make Jalen Samuels a must-add if you own Conner right now?
Maybe in deep leagues, but I mean, whoever's starting there is going to get the carries. But I know Tomlin said he liked what Samuels had to offer and showed, but Connor's healthy. Steelers work one back.
You're not worried about a reoccurring concussion in the playoffs?
Not yet, maybe, but also him getting benched for playoff run too if they have anything clinched or they can't clinch home field.
Yeah, that's a good point. There is one.
I'd say deep leagues, yeah.
There's one thing interesting about him, and I don't know how many Yahoo leagues you're in, but he's actually tight end eligible on Yahoo, so that's kind of interesting as well. If you're hard up for a tight end and they start using him as a tight end, then maybe you can get him in there as a pretty good, decent play there for some deep leagues.
If he gets 7 to 10 touches, he's worth it.
Yep, I agree.
So yeah, I'd go to that for sure. We don't have Bell on our list, so we might as well bring him up since we're talking about the Steelers' backfield. Dude, they did a countdown on the radio, or like it was New Year's Eve for the bell dropping today for him not showing up at camp. It was incredible.
That's crazy.
Or not showing up at camp, or not showing up to the practice. So they had our news, Pittsburgh local news, had a video camera watching the entrance of Steelers training facility, and they had Bell watch. It was like Panda Watch from Anchorman, and people were just ripping on it for hours on end. It was incredible.
That's crazy. That's for one guy. That's just insane.
Never seen anything like it in my life.
Nope, me neither.
Probably never will.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody's ever held out this long. I don't think I can recall any NFL player holding out for the entire season.
No, me neither. It's wild.
It is definitely wild. All right, what else we got on here?
Next up, say goodbye to the road troubles for the Saints and Drew Brees.
Yeah, I know I've been talking about this all year, especially on the DFS podcast. Every time he's on the road and we kind of mention Drew Brees as a top play, I'm always like, are we worried about his home and away splits? And we haven't really been worried about it all year, but I think he pretty much put that to rest this past weekend, putting up 50-something on the Bengals. Not that the Bengals are a good defense, but they are better at home, and Drew Brees just picked them apart. So it was pretty bad.
Dude, yeah, I mean, he has so many weapons. This has to be the most talent Breeze had around him in his career.
Agreed.
They're building around him for that late run Super Bowl in his career, and I don't know how you can stop that team, so I wouldn't worry about anything. He has weapons everywhere.
Yep. And Mike Thomas, I heard a stat, I think it was during the game, actually. So I think he's got 7 touchdowns on the season, and he has 9 incomplete passes his direction. Not 9 drops. Just when Breeze throws it to Mike Thomas, they have 9 incomplete passes, which is ridiculous. It's something like 93% completion percentage to Mike Thomas. This is insane.
Off topic with that, with Mike Thomas, I saw somebody posted this on Twitter. If Mike Thomas had a different quarterback, like a younger quarterback, would he be your dynasty number 1 receiver?
Yeah, I think so. I think if Breeze was like 5 years ago, Breeze, I knew he had a couple more years to go. Yeah, I think I would definitely. I mean, the rate that he's been playing and the targets he's getting and the offenses he's playing in, I mean, I don't see why he wouldn't be.
Dude, they're unbelievable right now.
Definitely. Speaking of wide receivers here, the post AJ Green, Tyler Boyd didn't look so great. I know you had some Twitter beef with this topic. Tell us exactly what happened and tell us what you think of Tyler Boyd going forward if AJ Green's out for a few more games.
I tweeted last week before the game to temper the expectations on Tyler Boyd. He's been a wide receiver 1 because he's gotten great volume and he's been wide open. If you watch any of the games, he's been catching these little slant routes over the middle with nobody on him. Because AJ Green's one of the best receivers. He's a top 5 receiver in the league. He's the most underappreciated guy in the league at the position, which isn't even worth getting to, but he makes life so much easier for them. He's double covered no matter what. And I said Tyler Boyd would maybe be a wide receiver 3. And he finished wide receiver 35 this week. And I don't think it's going to change much because he's not that go-to guy. He's a role player on that offense. He's not a star receiver. He can be a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 in the future. But he's not a wide receiver 1. We just saw flashes right now.
Agreed. I think I even brought it up on our DFS podcast because he was a popular pick as well. And I said, if Green is out for a few games, I'm not going to trust Boyd too much until I see it because I think he benefited a lot from Green being out there, and I just think we saw that in this game that he just wasn't open as much as he was in the past. So it's kind of hard to catch passes when you're not open. So 100% agree there.
All right. Then we got the return of Allen Robinson, making life for Mitch Trubisky a beautiful thing.
Yes. Yeah, I'm actually really happy. I know me and you had that little bit of a bet going last week about Corey Davis. I actually benched Allen Robinson in favor of Corey Davis, which ended up working out okay because they both had really big games, but I wish I had moved Robinson to my flex spot over Sony Michel. But yeah, it was good to see that Allen Robinson is back, fully healthy, 100%. Trubisky, I mean, he's a QB1 going forward, I feel like. I mean, he's had big game after big game after big game. I don't think he's that streamer anymore. He's definitely a QB1. Weapons are getting healthy. He's got Jordan Howard, of course, still there. Tarek Cohen is still there. Gabriel, now that Allen Robinson is back, might step back into what his role was in the beginning of the season. I love them going forward. So if you held on to Allen Robinson in your redraft, or if you got Trubisky as a cheap price early in the season, you're pretty happy right about now.
Yeah, they don't have too bad of a schedule going forward come playoffs either, which is a little hint of what we're hitting later. But after the Vikings, they have Detroit, New York, Rams, Green Bay, San Fran. That's a nice run.
Yes, definitely. That is really a really good schedule, to say the least.
So, yeah, he's definitely a QB1 going forward, and I want some pieces of that offense.
Definitely. All right, we got Marvin Jones, questionable for Week 11. What does that do for Galladay's value, and what does it do for Marvin Jones' value?
Dude, I'm getting nervous about that offense. Stafford didn't look like Stafford without Golden Tate. Now he's losing the other guy he's been comfortable with. If Marvin Jones is out, that whole offense might just crumble again this week.
Yep.
Galladay, we might be viewing him the same way we talked about Boyd. I think Galladay's a better talent. I think Galladay has the opportunity to be a wide receiver 1. But he isn't. I don't think he's ready to be that guy right now with no other weapons there. I mean, who's their next guy up?
I don't even know.
After Marvin Jones, is it Logan? Is that his name?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know, man. It's bad. I got Stafford early in the season in my Dynasty League, and I thought I'd be able to play him every week, and I can't.
Yep, agreed. Yeah, Galladay, I'd be a little bit worried about him if he does become the number one receiver. I think as a number two with Marvin Jones there, it's going to be like kind of like Tyler Boyd in that sense. He'll be start seeing the number one corner for each team. It'll end up being a little bit of a struggle for him. He's in his second year, didn't play much his rookie season. So yeah, if you own Galladay, if Jones is going to be out for a little bit, I'd be a little bit worried. Hopefully he does play, maybe in that week 11, maybe comes back on week 12, and we're good to go from there on out.
Yeah, if I'm in redraft, right? If my redraft league hasn't had a trade deadline yet, which probably should have, I'd probably try to move Galladay.
Yeah, that's a good call. Yeah, that's definitely a good call.
But yeah. Next up, we got David Johnson's back at it finally.
Definitely, yeah. David Johnson. I actually called this out on my DFS podcast as well. He was a popular play for me, and I think he was popular in general. But he's back. I mean, that defense isn't very good, but I think they finally figured out how to use him. He got plenty of work in the passing game, and obviously he got the carries on the ground. And as long as they keep doing this going forward, I think that David Johnson is going to be an RB1. Pretty much start him every week if they can continue to keep him on this kind of rate.
Dude, I love what Byron Leftwich has done there, man.
Agreed.
He's getting his weapons involved. He's getting those guys targets.
Agreed.
I think he's been a huge change for them. I think that's been part of it. He knows that, he had David Johnson use him.
Yep, agreed, 100%. All right, so I just put on my little cheat sheet here. Corey Davis, exclamation point. So I kind of called this last week. You were on the opposite end of that.
I was wrong.
Yeah. So as you were watching that game, or were you watching it, what were you thinking about Corey Davis?
I was thinking, oh shit, Jeff is right. But no, I'm happy for him. I mean, that game was shocking. I didn't think the Titans would come in New England, kick their ass. It was great to see, and I'm glad Corey Davis is living up to what we thought he'd be, being the wide receivers in the first round haven't been that great the last 2-3 years. Yep. It's good to see someone like Corey Davis step up, and I love his value in Dynasty going forward. And it's still a little matchup dependent for me in redraft, but I like him still.
Yeah, I agree. I think redraft you're a little bit worried about, because he did have a couple of bad games in a row there, for quite a while, since I think week 3, I think when they played the Eagles, it was his last really big game. But we talked about it before we started the show, and he got what did you say? He got the number 1 target share for any receiver in the league right now? Yeah,
he's up over 30%. I mean, it's high target share. He's not getting the most targets because they don't throw that much, but the percentage of passes coming his way is outlandish.
Yep, definitely. And he's got some good matchups coming up forward here. I know he's got the Giants on his schedule. He has the Colts on his schedule. I believe he has the Texans, who haven't been great against the pass, on his schedule as well. So some good matchups going forward.
Yeah, Colts, Houston, Jets, next 3 matchups. Then you got the Jags again. And Giants and Washington.
Yep.
Washington's kind of tough for the playoffs.
Yep, that is true. That's true.
All right. And then we got, speaking of that game, Tom Brady with his third straight sub-20-point game. You worried at all about him?
Well, I brought this up last week, and I called him a quote-unquote game manager, and you gave me some shit for it and said that it's Tom Brady. But I don't know. It's his third straight sub-20-point game. It's his 4th on the year. I don't know. I think he's a low-end QB1. He might even be dropping down to a QB2 for me. I'm a little nervous about that. I don't know if it's because Gronk hasn't been there. I don't know if it's because him and Gordon can't get on the same page. I don't know if it's because maybe, having Sonny Michel there helps them out. I'm not really sure what it is, but if I drafted Tom Brady, especially in redraft leagues, I'm pretty nervous right about now going into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, but how many of these older quarterbacks, other than Breeze, are kind of questionable right now? Just kind of the way the season's gone.
That's true. Yep. So you wouldn't be worried if you're a Brady owner?
I mean, his schedule's nice going forward, minus Minnesota, even though that could be a shootout. But like I said, Jets, Vikings, Dolphins, Steelers, Bills. Bills are rough, which I never thought I'd say.
The only thing I'm worried about, I think if I'm not mistaken, 3 of their next 5 games, which would pretty much encompass the fantasy playoffs, they're all on the road. And all their losses this year have been on the road. So I'd be a little worried about their road. Obviously they're not great teams that are playing against, but I'd be a little bit worried about them being on the road.
Yeah, I mean, as a football fan, I hope they lose and struggle. But for fantasy purposes, if I own Brady, I want the opposite. But I like no Patriots anywhere. So I'm not that upset about it.
All right, fair enough. I have Sonny Michel, so hopefully he becomes that game manager. They just hand the ball to Sonny Michel every play. So I'll be happy with that.
Now we got the Bucks having 500 yards of total offense and not scoring.
Oh man, as a Mike Evans owner, I was hating this. I mean, I couldn't believe that. I mean, I unfortunately worked for most of the day. I missed most of the game, so I'm just looking at fantasy numbers, and I'm like, man, the Bucks are struggling today. They haven't got Mike Evans any touches. He's got tons of targets, but he just wasn't getting any catches or yards. And then I hear after the game when I get home that they had 500 yards of total offense and just didn't score a touchdown. That's just ridiculous. It's never happened before. It's kind of insane to think about that. Like how the Redskins kept them out of the end zone that entire time and still give up 500 yards is beyond me.
I don't know what they're doing, Mike Evans. He's had 16 targets in the past 2 weeks and he has 4 catches.
Yep. I'm hoping that it eventually, kind of goes back to the mean and he gets back to being the number one receiver. I need him for the playoffs for sure.
Yep. Because you can't bench him.
Nope. You definitely cannot.
First week you do, he's going to have that huge game.
Yep. Definitely will.
Just trust the process on Mike Evans. Yeah.
All right, so the Bills cut Nathan Peterman, and they got Matt Barkley now, who basically lit up the Jets. No one saw that coming. I think they had 41 points in that game. Any chance if what's his name is out for any extended period of time that you're going to be streaming Barkley in any kind of way?
Probably not. No, I don't trust that offense at all.
Agreed.
Like, nothing made sense. Shady McCoy went back to being 25 years old, had, 130 and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Zay Jones went off. Some other receiver I've never even heard of went off. Like, it's crazy. I was looking at, target shares and stuff for our waiver article. I'm like, who's this dude for the Bills? Or he went nuts. And then I'm not putting him on there. I didn't even remember his name. Robert Foster.
Yeah, who the hell's that? Sounds like a beer.
Yeah. This dude's had 0 fantasy points the entire season, goes 3 for 105. Get out of here. He's owned 0% of ESPN leagues.
That's crazy.
0. I've never seen that.
That is crazy. That's probably because him and Barkley, maybe they were on a practice squad together or something, had some kind of chemistry going, because, yeah, that's just crazy to me.
Yeah, it's not going to happen again. But I think Josh Allen's healthy with them cutting Peterman.
You think he's healthy?
But I don't know.
Yeah.
I said he might be. And that's what they're getting really close to it if they're cutting him.
Yep, agreed.
Next up is one of my most exciting ones right now. It's Fournette's back from his injury and lit it up in fantasy. I made multiple trades for him while he was hurt, and I regret none of it.
Yep.
The team still struggled, but that offense is just better with him. He's an absolute stud in fantasy. He got 29 touches.
That's insane.
No, is that right? 29 touches?
I think that sounds right. I know it was 20-something.
Yeah, 24 carries and 5 catches.
Yep.
You got Fournette catching 5 balls for 56 yards. That's unbelievable.
Yep.
So, yeah, I'm ecstatic about it. Hopefully he's going to be worth that high draft pick people had for him right in time for playoffs.
Yep. I've been waiting on him in my work league. I got him, and I've been waiting, just kind of keeping him on my bench, waiting for him to come back. And then he was another call-out that I had on my DFS podcast, too, that he was just too cheap on daily fantasy, that if they waited this long to get him into the game, they were going to actually give him a full workload. They didn't want to bring him back too early. They wanted him to be ready to come back, and he was ready, and he looked damn good. Yeah,
dude, he looked great. Yeah, I overpaid for him in Dynasty, and it was worth every penny.
Worth it, yep, definitely.
Yep, I gave up Corey Davis and Cortland Sutton for him, who are huge assets, and I have no regrets.
Nice. Speaking of running backs, Mr. Rashad Penny, who you were a hater of pretty much all offseason and most of this season already, he had a pretty good game this past week. Is this going to be going forward the same thing we're going to see, or do you think this is just a one-off?
Dude, he looked great. Every time he touched the ball, it was electric. But I trust nothing in Seattle. He was still out-touched by Mike Davis. Chris Carson's coming back. I don't trust anything. I'd probably buy him in Dynasty.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to.
Agreed.
But what are you going to do, man? They have all those weapons. They have all those guys there.
Yep. And all they want to do is run the ball.
Backs, can't trust the receivers. Nothing.
Yep.
Tight end.
Yep. They just want to run the ball, and they probably run all 3 guys and making all 3 of them irrelevant in fantasy you won't know which one's going to have the big game. So yeah, I agree. I think that's going to be a situation that you're not going to be able to really know what's going to happen, and when you go into game to game, it'll probably be a hot hand kind of thing, and good luck figuring out the hot hand for that game.
Yeah, dude, that gives me anxiety just thinking about it in that backfield. I'm good.
Yep, definitely.
Not this fun one. We have Cooper Kupp towards ACL.
That was terrible to watch. I think it was a non-contact injury. I mean, this guy just came back from injury, and now he's out for the rest of the season. Young kid, that powerful offense. I know all Cooper Kupp owners are definitely disappointed. The guy in my league, in my dynasty league, is he's pretty hurting for receiver, and this really hurts him. So yeah, definitely a big blow to that Rams offense, and a big blow to fantasy owners everywhere.
Yeah, it sucks.
Who do you think?
Josh Reynolds is going to be the guy to buy.
Yeah, I was going to say, who do you think benefits the most, Reynolds, or do you think you just get a bump from Cooks and Robert Woods?
I mean, I think both Cooks and Woods will get a little bit of a bump, but I think Reynolds will pick up a little bit. I think Reynolds will get nice red zone work.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you can get him on waivers this week, I think he's definitely someone you want to look at.
I'd like to see them use those tight ends. They have those two young guys they drafted in second and third round. They just Gerald Everett and Tyler Higbee. They just don't use. I wouldn't mind seeing that either.
Yep, agreed. All right, free Aaron Jones. We finally had a breakout for Aaron Jones. Even Aaron Rodgers came out and said that he needed to get him more work. Had a great game. Is this going to be something that we see going forward for the Packers?
Dude, he looks good. I mean, it's just if he gets the carries. He had 18 touches and 172 yards or something like that. 145 rushing, 27 receiving. My math might not be good tonight. I don't know. But dude, he's electric. Everybody's wanted to see him all year. He's been like the Twitter sweetheart for fantasy football, and it finally happened. People are going nuts.
Yep.
And if they keep giving the ball with that offense and Aaron Rodgers there, he's gonna have an easy life. He's not gonna see stacked boxes, and he's gonna keep y'all make plays. So I think he's gonna be good going on this forward. Just as long as Jamal Williams is gone out of the picture.
Yep, I think your buy low opportunity for Aaron Jones is past. I think now if you got him, you're happy. And if you want him, you're not going to get him because I think he's going to be an RB1 for the rest of the season.
Yeah, he's good for the rest of the year. All right. Next up, we got pick your tight end one for next year. Zach Ertz or Travis Kelce?
Of course, Ertz is coming off that huge monster game. I think I saw a stat that he's got more receptions at this point in the season than anybody has in NFL history. Kelce, of course, is in the powerful Chiefs offense, catching touchdowns all over the place. Honestly, it's a toss-up. I think it's just a matter of how you want to build your roster next year for your drafts. I think that, either one of them is going to be a tight end one. I don't think Gronk will be that one anymore. I think if he does end up getting healthy, he'll drop down, obviously behind these two guys at least, and maybe behind the next guy we're going to talk about. Gronk may be a tight end number 4 or 5 next year if he does come back after this season that's been kind of lost with injury. What do you think of these two guys?
I think I like Ertz going forward. I mean, they're both in good. They've both been fantastic this year in a terrible position, but Carson Wentz loves him, man.
Yep.
Like, he has eyes for Zach Ertz. Like, he just feeds him the ball. And Kelce, he gets targets and stuff, but it's not like that. And he has Tyreek Hill around him, Sammy Watkins, Kareem Hunt. There's talent in Philly, but not like those guys.
Yep.
Ertz is that dude there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they got Golden Tate, and what he get, like 4 targets in that game. His new shiny new toy, and I think Zach Ertz.
He didn't play much though either. He was on the field like 20 passing snaps or something like that.
I didn't realize that, so that could be why. Because I mean, he didn't really know the playbook probably.
Yeah, they were talking about. I was listening to Pro Football Focus. They were talking about how like last year they did that with Ajayi too. His first game there, they didn't play him many snaps. They just kind of ramped him up over 2 or 3 games.
Gotcha.
So could see an uptick coming up, but right now it's Ertz, man. They're in the red zone. He's getting looked at.
Yep.
If there's any trouble, he's getting looked at.
Tons of targets. I mean, I think he's double digits more often than he's single digits in targets for the year.
Yeah, I have him in my dynasty league. I've had him for 2 years, and I got him when he was a nobody.
Yep.
And it's been glorious. Like, I have no worries at the position ever.
Yep.
I traded Eric Ebron high because I had Ertz and didn't care.
Nice. All right, the last one I got actually is kind of a 2-parter here because the the Niners played Monday night. They played last night. Is Breida a top 10 back when he's healthy? And George Kittle next year, is he a top 3 tight end?
I'm gonna say no for Brady. I think he's a solid RB2. Healthy. Everyone, guys are getting healthy, man. Like with Dave Johnson being better, Fournette coming back, then you got like Chubb, Aaron Jones all breaking out.
And Dalvin Cook.
I think Brady is a little bit behind some of those guys. Some of the obvious ones too, but I think he's just below that. But I think he has upside.
Yep, agreed.
And then I think Kittle is tight end 3 next year, man. He's getting tons of volume. And he's good. Like, he's a freak athlete. He's really good.
Yeah, I heard a stat. I listened to the radio broadcast on my drive home from work, and one of the guys said that he actually leads the league in yards after catch. Not for tight ends, just for any position, leads the league yards after catch, which is insane for a tight end.
That really is. Question, what's going to go on with them next year, do you think, at running back? Are they going to cut loose McKinnon?
I think they will. I think his contract is a big contract, but it was front loaded, so they could cut him without a whole lot of loss on that respect. And Breida has been kind of shown that he can be an RB1 if they need him to be, and if they want to go out and maybe try to get Le'Veon Bell, they could do that as well. They got plenty of cap space. I'm more curious of what they want to do in the draft. I mean, we're going to get a top 3-ish pick probably. Is there a receiver that they would draft that high? I mean, you're more of a college guy than I am. We need a receiver, and would someone be out there that we'd be drafting that high, or should we trade back?
Top 3 is hard for a receiver. I mean, it's a good receiver class. It's going to be a lot to dig through because there's a lot of guys with very similar styles. Like either in N'Keal Harry, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, a few of these other guys. But maybe if you trade back for it, but that high, you might be going. Do they need D-line at all?
Yeah, we kind of spend all of our draft picks on D-line. We got a bunch of first-rounders across that D-line. We didn't step up. I mean, we got Solomon Thomas and a couple other guys.
Buckner's good.
Yeah, Buckner's good. And, we got some good linebackers with Reuben Foster if he can stay healthy. Our secondary is terrible. I mean, I think we have 2 picks the entire season, which is just terrible. But even that, I don't know if you go that high with the cornerback in this draft either.
I'd take a corner top 3 over receiver.
Is it a good class this year for cornerback?
There's a few good ones. I like Greedy Williams from LSU, but there's a few guys. I haven't dug deep into next year's draft, especially on defense yet.
Right.
But
yeah.
Definitely will be. We'll definitely be visiting that later on.
Definitely. All right, let's get to your waivers. Well, who you got for your waivers this week?
All right, my top waiver ad is the other receiver in Chicago, Anthony Miller. He's been his targets have been up every week. He had 5 catches the last 2 weeks, had 122 yards and a touchdown this year. I love this talent coming out. He was in my top 4 receivers he had, especially his run after the catch, his ability to make plays. I think he's going to be a big part of that offense, and he's such a dynamic player to be opposite of Allen Robinson, being with how athletic he is, his run after the catch. I think he's going to do big things. So he's my top waiver ad right now. Rashad Penny we talked about. I'm a little hesitant still, though, with Davis, Chris Carson, and nothing on that offense ever making sense or that team making sense.
Yeah, I think if you're desperate, you get Penny, but if you can get somebody else, you do that.
A couple boring running backs who you can maybe get if you're in a pinch and you want some floor plays. Jacquizz Rodgers got a ton of targets in the passing game. He was targeted 8 times this week, 100 yards. Might not get that, but he'll give you 7, 8 points, 10 points with PPR value.
Right.
On a weekly basis. And Frank Gore is now on his, 7 straight games with double-digit carries. So Old Man River is still pounding away anywhere between 50 a game. So if you need to floor, those guys are there.
Yeah, there's a few guys on bye this week. I know Sonny Michel, Nick Chubb, good running backs that are on bye. I think if you have Isaiah Crowell, you've been starting him, I'm sorry. But if he has been starting for your team, he's on a bye as well. So you're going to need some backs to kind of fill in those spots.
Another guy who we mentioned last week, I didn't put on the article this week, is Josh Adams. They are talking about getting him more carries because they really liked what he did. He looked like the best early down back this week. Receiver-wise, I feel dirty saying both guys. Zay Jones looked good. I was a huge Zay Jones fan last year when he came out of the draft. Like, I wanted Baltimore to get him. I thought he was great out of college for a small school guy. And this is the first time he's actually done anything. He had 93 yards and a touchdown on him. He got targeted 11 times. Like, he was a part of the offense. Hopefully, when Josh Allen comes back, he realizes he's somewhat talented, or we think he is. So,
Yeah.
I'd add him. Then deeper leagues, I grabbed John Ross. He had another had 9 targets this week. He didn't have that many catches, but he scored, and Andy Dalton trusted him a little bit.
Yep.
And he's filling A.J. Green's role in. Maybe like 40% of what A.J. Green is, but he's still filling that role.
Yep, definitely.
Tight end wise, Ricky Seals-Jones, he's still available on a lot, and since Byron Leftwich took over, he's had 13 targets in those 2 weeks, which is the same as every other top player on that team. Larry Fitzgerald, David Johnson, Ricky Seals-Jones, and Christian Kirk all have been targeted 13 times each.
Wow.
Since Leftwich took over. So he's a part of that offense, and he's probably their best red zone threat. So he's worth an add. And then my boy Lamar Jackson, especially in super flex, because if there's a chance he could be starting. Flacco's injured or battling injury. They claimed he could have got surgery, but now they're saying he's staying. But if he's out, Lamar Jackson gives you a floor because he can run. He's going to run 8 to 10 times a game if he starts.
Yep.
And you get 60 yards rushing, that's a touchdown in fantasy scoring. Or no, if you get 40 yards rushing, that's a fantasy touchdown in most places.
Yep.
And that's huge. So if he does that and he can throw it at all, he's a solid fantasy play.
I agree. And I think that it probably even helps Alex Collins. If you've been holding on to Alex Collins, if Lamar Jackson plays, we've seen it before with running quarterbacks making the running back better just from those those read option plays and such, that those run pass options. It kind of freezes those linebackers a little bit and gives the running back a little bit more time to get to that second level. So if you got Collins, if you hold on to him, maybe he can be good with Jackson going forward.
Yeah, I hope so, man. I'd love to see that. Plus, they're going to run the ball more having a rookie quarterback in there to protect him anyways.
Yep, agreed. And I brought up one guy, a deep league ad. I know me and you are in some pretty deep league, 16 teams, 40-man rosters. But Marcel Aitman from the Raiders, obviously he was on the practice squad. They just recently signed him because, Nelson's retiring. And I believe Martavis Bryant is going to be either out for the season or out for a good amount of time. Obviously, they traded away Amari Cooper. They basically don't have anybody left, and this guy Aitman was really good in the preseason. I actually played him quite a bit in daily fantasy in the preseason. Looked really good. You said he's a pretty big guy, right? You kind of know more about him than I do.
6'4", 215. He's a big kid.
Big guy. So he can definitely be the red zone threat in addition to Jared Cook down there. So deep league ad, if you're in some super deep league, his name probably isn't as well known, but I think you can definitely add him if you needed to.
Sure.
All right, we'll take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to be previewing the fantasy playoffs and kind of going over to see which teams have the best matchups and if you need to make any moves now to prepare yourself for the fantasy playoffs.
Fantasy football. It's not just a social interaction anymore. Today's manager plays to win, and the difference between winning and losing is so small, a manager will do whatever it takes to get an edge. Yet the other sites offer the same content at an extremely high cost. It's time to get away from the old and step into the future of fantasy stats. This is StatRoute. StatRoute allows you to find any data set for any player or team in 7 seconds or less, all on a simple, easy-to-use application. Want to see which running back performed best in the snow last season? How about the past 5 seasons? And in the fourth quarter? Or maybe you're unsure of which quarterback to start for the upcoming week. With our Stats IP technology, you can now quickly see how Matt Stafford has performed in the rain, during the second half of the season, in New York, compared with how Russell Wilson has played during primetime games, at home, versus the Rams' new defensive coordinator, Wade Phillips. At StatRoute, it's our mission to deliver state-of-the-art technology guaranteed to keep you ahead of the curve. So, whether you're a casual football fan, a weekly fantasy trash talker, or a DFS hustler, we've got you covered. Welcome to the new standard for stats delivery. We are StatRoute. Take back your league.
All right, guys, welcome back. As always, when the show is finished, I will post this to all your major podcast networks, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music. So if you want to listen to us in your car tomorrow morning on your way to work, you can do that. We're also always available on YouTube immediately after the show is finished. And if you want to watch us on video in the Going for Two app for iOS and Android, it's a free app. Just search for Going for Two and you can find the app there. All right, Ryan, we're getting ready to go into the fantasy playoffs here in a few weeks. And I think now is time to kind of prepare yourself. I think the trade deadlines are typically around week 10, week 11. Maybe you have 1 week left where you can make some moves. But we're going to look at some of the teams that have some good matchups. Obviously, we're not going to talk about the guys that you're going to start regardless. You're not going to bench Todd Gurley depending on his matchup. You're playing Gurley no matter what. You're playing Christian McCaffrey no matter what. We'll look at the fringe guys, the guys that you might have to make a decision on, whether or not you want to start him or if you want to try to trade him now if you can. And we'll start with the team with the best matchups right now. And the first team I have on my list here is the Panthers, who might have the single best matchups in fantasy for these 3 weeks of week 14, 15, and 16. Their matchups are the Bucks, the Browns, and then they finish up with the Saints. So, what do you think of some of these French players on the Panthers here?
I feel like everybody in their offense is a French player other than Christian McCaffrey and Cam, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
I think there's definitely solid matchups. I think you play Greg Olsen regardless, no matter who they play, just because tight end's terrible. Depends who teams consider as their top receiver. I think box game, you play everybody. Yeah,
agreed. So those three receivers that we got there, with Funchess, Moore, and Samuels, they're kind of like the Seattle backfield in the sense that you don't know which one is going to have a big game. But Funchess has seemed to have kind of fallen off the last few weeks. Moore's coming on. Samuels has been used a little bit more there. I think if you own any of those three guys, I think they are startable. I wouldn't necessarily, make them a must start because it is, three receivers playing the same position and chances that they all go off is very slim. But if you needed to start one in a flex position, you could do that. But yeah, I think that schedule is just beautiful. I think if you own Christian McCaffrey or Cam Newton, you're ecstatic for that schedule because it doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah. I'd be a little nervous with whoever they consider number one receiver against the Browns and Saints because they have good top corners.
That's a good point.
I mean, Cleveland on Football Outsiders is number 2 in DVOA against wide receiver ones because Denzel Ward's been fantastic for them, and he shadows guys. I just don't know who it would be for those guys, if it's going to be Moore or Funchess.
Yep. I'm not sure who it is either, and hopefully we'll get some more clarity this coming week before we get into the playoffs there and figure out who the number one receiver is going to be going forward.
But yeah, I'd say that schedule is beautiful. I have no problem playing any of those guys.
Agreed.
If I have to. Next up, we got the Steelers. They got the Raiders, the Pats, and the Saints.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Steelers don't have a ton of fringe guys. You're pretty much starting Antonio Brown. You're starting Juju. Your main fringe guys are probably Vance McDonald and probably even Big Ben. May not be your main starter. But that schedule is really good, especially that last game, the Saints game, the championship game. That'll probably end up being a shootout. And if you got, Vance McDonald, Big Ben, I think you're playing them, obviously. And, yeah, you love that. I mean, Raiders have given up. The Patriots will probably be a tough game just because it is a rivalry game and they'll be probably playing for a position in the playoffs. But I think you're still starting. If you have Vance McDonald and your other tight end is, sort of on that level with Vance McDonald, I think you're starting McDonald over your other tight end.
Yeah, those are beautiful games. That might be one of the top. I think they might move up my number one for matchup wise.
Yeah.
And I don't know how Big Ben can't do good against these teams.
Yeah,
agreed.
agreed.
With the weapons he has and those matchups, it'd be a travesty if he isn't a top 10 quarterback these 3 weeks.
Agreed, 100%. The next one on my list, their first game isn't a great matchup, but their last two, if you can get past that first week, or if you got the first round bye, that's the Seahawks. They have the Vikings as their first, their Week 14 matchup. Then they got the 49ers and the Chiefs in the championship game. Of course, they got a ton of fringe guys. We have no idea who to start week to week other than Russell Wilson. But you got Lockett there. You got Baldwin. You got the three running backs we talked about earlier. We got David Moore. Any clarity at all with these receivers that you think you can have going forward?
I mean, in most leagues, I think if you have Doug Baldwin, you'll probably start him during those weeks. He always is that late season guy. Like, I feel like he's going to do just enough at the end of the year where he gets overdrafted next year.
Yeah.
So I think Doug Baldwin will be all right. And Tyler Lockett, he's one of those guys you can't leave on your bench, especially in a good matchup like that, because he can get 30 points on 4 catches.
Exactly. Yeah, he's that big play guy.
But, yeah, against 49ers, against the Chiefs, those are beautiful games, and they're going to be chucking the ball around.
Yep.
Agreed. And then we talked about the running backs. I think you just have to hold on to whoever you have at the running back position there, and hopefully something clarifies by playoffs.
Yep.
Because it's a freaking nightmare.
Agreed. We still have a few weeks until Week 14, so hopefully something kind of comes up with those running backs and who they want to have going forward.
Exactly. Next up, we got the recently just dismantled Bengals. They have the Chargers, Raiders, and Browns to end the year.
Yeah, they, again, don't have too many fringe players. You're starting A.J. Green if he's healthy. I guess Andy Dalton's a fringe guy. I don't know. Dalton scares me just in general, but I think if you have Dalton and your other quarterback is on the same level as Dalton, maybe you pick Dalton over that other guy. Obviously, Gio Bernard should be healthy. Azuma, their tight end. Obviously, you're probably still starting Tyler Boyd. John Ross, if he shows us something in the next couple of weeks, maybe he's startable against these teams. What do you think of the guys for the Bengals?
I mean, against the Raiders, I'd play anybody. If they're on my team, I need a streamer or anything. I'll play. I think I play high school team against the Raiders. They should have a huge game. I mean, the Browns now are going to have the Bengals playbook. The Bengals now have the Browns playbook since Hugh Jackson went over to them to be assistant to the regional manager or special coach. So, it's a great matchups. I like Uzama as a streaming tight end. A lot of leagues. Every time I've called him as a streamer, though, he's done it the opposite week. But, I like him. I'm still nervous about Gio, man. That role, Mixon has that lead back roll down.
Yeah, you're right.
And I don't think it's going away anytime soon. Gio's going to be just that guy to kind of, if he's tired.
Yep, agreed. Yeah, I don't think I'm starting Gio anytime soon. And with your Hugh Jackson thing there, I think he's going to be surprised at who they have over there. And be like, who's this Duke Johnson guy? I don't remember him. I don't think he was on that team when I was over there because he didn't use him at all. And, of course, now he's been pretty good the last couple of weeks. So,
oh, God.
Next one on my list that I got here is the Denver Broncos. They've got the 49ers, the Browns, and the Raiders. Of course, their fringe guys include both running backs, Royce Freeman and Lindsey. And then the rookie receiver, Sutton, is probably on the fringe as well. You're probably starting Emmanuel Sanders. I hope you're not starting Case Keenum, but if you are, that's a pretty good matchup for those guys as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice schedule for them. I would feel okay starting Sutton in the flex. Lindsey's been solid all year. If he's on your team, chances are you're playing him. Freeman, I'm so afraid of him right now.
Agreed. He's very touchdown dependent.
Yeah, and if you have Emmanuel Sanders, you got to start him.
Yep, agreed. 100%.
I'd have no problem streaming Keenum in those games, though. Against the Raiders, 49ers.
Yeah.
I'd play Keenum if I had to.
Yep, if you have to, definitely. I think that he's definitely streamable in those games.
Next up, we have the Ravens with the Chiefs, Bucs, and Chargers.
Yeah, your Ravens there. Of course, if Lamar Jackson is playing, you love these matchups, especially that Chiefs game there. It'll be a shootout, and he'll be running all over the field. Bucs, the same thing. I mean, Bucs defense is just terrible, and that'll be probably a shootout as well. But then also you got Alex Collins, John Brown, Crabtree, Flacco, probably all fringe players. I think all playable in at least those first two games, the Chiefs and the Bucs. The Chargers are a little bit better on defense, but I think they're all streamable options. Flacco, if he's playing still, probably not. I don't know if I love Flacco there. I think you probably got somebody better. I don't think Flacco would be playable. But John Brown, Crabtree, you've probably been starting John Brown all year. He's been pretty good, and I think in these matchups he'll be even better. So I think I like these guys. What about you?
Yeah, John Brown, he's kind of similar to we talked about Tyler Lockett. He has those huge games. Crabtree's kind of underperformed a little bit, but I'm playing with him. And same with I keep an eye on the two rookie tight ends for the playoff run, especially if Lamar Jackson takes over. He really targeted Mark Andrews and Hayden Hurst, especially Mark Andrews in the preseason.
That's right, yep.
And Mark Andrews has looked good so far in the time he's played. He's been a nice red zone target for even Flacco. So I like him going forward, especially long term.
Definitely. All right, let's flip over to some of these teams that have bad matchups. These are the teams that you may want to start moving people if you can. We'll start off here with the Colts. Their matchups are the Texans, the Cowboys, whose defense is pretty underrated. They do get the Giants with their last game, the championship game, so you do like that if you can get through the Texans and the Cowboys. Of course, their fringe players are Ebron and Doyle, the two tight ends. You can't figure those two guys out. One's getting the most targets, one's getting the most touchdowns. Figure that one out. I have no idea. Marlon Mack could be a fringe guy as well, depending on how he does to end the season. What do you think of these guys? Are you trying to move any of these guys if you can?
All of them. Yeah. I was a huge Ebron truther in the preseason. I called him as the top 7 tight end on the show, but it's come down the roost. Doyle's back. Ebron is on the field for 20 snaps.
Yep.
This week. Like, he just managed to somehow get 3 touchdowns in 20 snaps, which makes no sense. Doyle's Luck's guy. I mean, they're still throwing the ball well, and I think Luck's still going to be fantastic. But these guys, Max scares me. I don't know how they're going to use them, and if they're going to be running the ball in those games. And Ebron and Doyle, I can't make sense of it.
Yep,
like
agreed.
It doesn't make sense.
I think if you have Ebron or Doyle, you may have to start them just because the tight end position is so terrible. Unless you can somehow package them and get a better tight end, you may have to start them because they do have that upside. I mean, Doyle's getting a ton of targets. Ebron is the touchdown guy, unfortunately. What's he got on the year? Like 9 touchdowns? Something ridiculous.
He's second in the league behind AB.
Yeah, it's just insane. He plays like limited snaps. It's insane.
I was talking to my buddy about it. He was giving me some crap about trading Ebron. Even though I had Ertz, I didn't care. He scored a touchdown on every 7 targets, 7.2 targets.
That's crazy.
No one should be doing that. And the only person who's I noticed out of the top 10 guys who is even more absurd is Tyler Lockett.
Yeah, but he's same thing.
His was 6 something. But no, you can't trust that going forward.
Agreed. So yeah, sell high on Ebron, especially after the 3 touchdown weekend. If your trade deadline hasn't passed yet, if it's week 11, I would try to move Ebron now if you can.
Yeah, if you can't, you got to play him.
Yep.
Next up, we have the Lions. We kind of touched on it a little bit with those injuries. But they have a lot of fringe guys. We got Galladay, Marvin Jones, Carry-On, and I guess Stafford now, who preseason was a locked top 10 guy.
Yep. Stafford does not look so good lately, and I think those are some pretty tough matchups. I know people hear Bills, and they think, that's a bad team, that this should be a good matchup, but the Bills' defense is actually pretty good. They've actually slowed some teams down quite a bit. So I think that the Bills are a bad matchup. If Marvin Jones is back healthy with Galladay, maybe you like the receiving core there. Maybe Stafford does, sort of find his groove toward the end of the season. But I'd be worried about this matchup. If I can move any of these guys, if, off that big game that Galladay just had, if you can try to trade him away and get some better pieces, definitely do that. Obviously, if you have him, you're probably starting him. Marvin Jones, maybe not. He was drafted a little bit later. Maybe you got somebody better you can fill in there. Carry-On, same thing. If you got someone better, start him over Carry-On as well. Stafford, you might be stuck with him. Maybe you drafted him as your second quarterback and you're okay, but in this matchup, I'm not loving it.
I played Fitzpatrick over the last 2 weeks.
Wow, that's saying something right there.
Yeah, you mentioned the Bills. Right now, they're the number 1 rated pass defense in the league.
Wow, that's impressive with that terrible offense, too, that they have.
They're number 2 overall in defense and number 1 in pass defense on Football Insider. So they're legitimately good.
Definitely.
And they have one of the best corners in the league. So number one receiver's gone.
Yep.
When they play the Bills.
Yep. So I think if you're looking at those,
And same.
and what was that? You cut off at that last minute.
The same. Actually, dude, I said same against the Cardinals when they play with Patrick Peterson out there.
Yep.
Then Rhodes for the Vikings. Whoever there decides top receiver there is done.
It's done. Yep. I think if you own lines, definitely be worried. Try to move them if you can.
Yep. Next up, we got the Redskins with Giants, Jags, and Titans.
Yeah, the Giants, obviously, you like that. It is a division game, so sometimes those are a little bit closer than you expect them to be. Jags haven't been great, but they're still a good pass defense. Their defense hasn't been what it was last year, but they, could find that sort of groove at any moment. And the Titans, we kind of saw them just play the Patriots and just make them look pretty bad there, too. So the Redskins, obviously, their whole team's basically a fringe player. You got Reed, basically, he's been a fringe player all year. Alex Smith, I hope you're not starting him. He's been terrible. Mo Harris has kind of had a couple good games here in a row, but definitely fringe. Adrian Peterson, I think if you have him, you're starting him because you probably drafted him a pretty decent, draft stock in Adrian Peterson, but I wouldn't love it, especially with the pass defense the way it is. They'll just stack the box on AP and make his life difficult. So if you got Redskins still on your team, try to move them. I know it'll be hard to move them because they haven't been very good, but definitely don't want to hold on to them.
Yeah, I'm not playing anybody on that offense if I don't have to.
Agreed.
They lost 2 offensive linemen in the past 2 weeks. They're done.
Agreed.
Next we got the Jets with the Bills, Texans, Packers. So we got Crowell, your boy McGuire, Dunwa, Robbie Anderson, Sam Darnold.
Honestly, I hope you're not starting any of these guys in any kind of redraft league. But if you're forced to start them, you aren't looking forward to these matchups. The Bills we talked about. But honestly, I think if you own these guys, you probably had them on your bench already all season. You probably already have a better replacement for them. So you're not going to plug them in these matchups. You don't love it. I would just leave them on my bench.
Yeah, same. There's no one there any part of. Maybe from desperate Robbie Anderson.
Yeah, he'd be the only one.
Yeah, no, I'm good there. Next we got the Niners with Denver, Seattle, and the Bears.
Yeah, that's brutal. I mean, Breida, we just talked about him. If he's a top 10 running back, we said he's probably just outside. But in these matchups, you definitely don't love it. Denver actually hasn't been that good against the run, so maybe not so much against Denver. But the Seahawks, the Bears, obviously are really good. Good one. We're not sure of his health. I mean, he had some issues this past game with getting hit on 2 consecutive plays in the head. So his concussion, possibly could linger. And he hasn't been that great anyway. With this new quarterback, Mullins, he's been okay. Kittle, obviously, start Kittle no matter what. But these Breida and Goodwin, I'd be worried about these 2 guys. And Breida, you probably didn't draft too high. You probably got a better replacement already. So I think that if you have Breida and in that Seahawks and especially in that Bears game, you're going to go to your other option.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, last one we got here that we'll do is let's do the Eagles because they got a lot of fringe players. They have the Cowboys, who they just lost to this past weekend. The Rams, whose defense looks better on paper than it actually has been, and the Texans. Obviously, their fringe players include all their running backs, Clement, Smallwood, and Adams. Maybe we'll get some clarity over the next few weeks on who they actually love. Tate, we talked about him, if he can ramp up his snaps a little bit, if he's going to be a fringe player. Aguilar is probably going to be eliminated by the time we get to the playoffs by Tate. But he is a fringe player as well. What do you think of the Eagles' fringe players going into these matchups?
I kind of hate the running backs right now. No one I feel comfortable in, and chances are the Rams and Texans are going to put up a ton of points. So it's going to force them to pass. So I'm going with whoever the passing down back is if I have to. But like I said, for the playoffs, you're not starting those guys.
Agreed.
And I feel okay. I feel okay starting Tate. Come the playoffs, I think he'll be more involved in the offense, and he's a talented receiver, man. Like he's one of the best slot receivers in the league. I think his role's going to come up in that offense, and Aguilar, I think, is done.
Would you? So let's say your trade deadline's week 11, so you had this week to trade. Are you going to try to buy low on Golden Tate with that game that he had this past week?
I wouldn't hate that idea. I'd buy low on him.
Yeah, I think you could too. I think if people don't look at his snap count and just look at his production, they're going to think, oh man, he's not going to be good in this offense. And maybe they'll sell him for dirt cheap. And if you can go out and get Golden Tate right now, I think you do. These matchups, they are necessarily not great matchups, but they're not terrible matchups either. So I think Tate could thrive in those games as well.
Yeah, I don't hate him at all. Or I think Tate will be all right.
Agreed. All right, let's play a little bit of this or that. We're going to have two guys we're going to give you, and you got to pick one or the other. Rest of the season, who would you rather have? We'll start off with this number one here. Fournette or Mixon? Which one do you want?
Oh, God. I was hoping I could ask you that one when I put the question down, because I hate that question so much. I think I'm going to go Mixon. I trust their offense a little bit more, and I think Mixon has that solidified role in the passing game. Beginning of the season, it would have been flip-flopped, but they're so close to me. But I'd have to go Mixon right now.
I think I'm going to go Mixon, and not necessarily because of on-the-field play, but more so with Fournette's injury history. I think he is always going to be a risk to get hurt. And Mixon, he's had a couple injuries here and there, but nothing like Fournette has had. I think if you tell me that Fournette's healthy the rest of the season, I think I lean Fournette just because they use the hell out of him and they don't have much else besides him, whereas Mixon still has A.J. Green, Tyler Boyd. Gio is still there to steal some touches every now and then, whereas you look at the Jaguars, who do they really have to even throw the ball to? I think Fournette is their team, basically. If they have the chance to make the playoffs, they're going to ride him into the playoffs. But that injury history kind of scares me. So, yeah, I think I'm going to lean Mixon as well.
Yeah. Next up, we got the guys with their newer situations, more pressure on them. We got some Galladay or Tyler Boyd.
Well, just as we kind of talked about these two guys, in this little last segment that we did with the playoffs, I think Boyd has the better matchups in the playoffs, so I'm going to lean Boyd, assuming A.J. Green comes back. I'm trying to think. Let's see, who do the Bengals have again? I know they were on our list. Chargers, Raiders, Browns. I love that a whole lot more than I do the Cards, Bills, and Vikings. So I'm going to go Boyd on this one.
Yeah, I think I will too, and that's all hoping that A.J. Green's back.
Agreed.
If A.J. Green's not back in 2 weeks, I told you the wrong thing.
Yeah.
If A.J. Green's not there, I have no faith.
Agreed. All right. Then we got... All right, two top-tier receivers here. Julio Jones or Odell Beckham Jr. going forward?
I'm going OBJ on it, man. I'm going for that ceiling he has. I know Julio's been great this year, but Odell's heating up. Eli Manning's starting to remember what he has, and he just finds the end zone.
Yep.
I don't like to chase touchdowns, but Odell Beckham knows how to score touchdowns. Every single season he's been in the league, he's scored double-digit TDs. He's getting there. He's always gets 1,000 yards. I'm going to go OBJ off of just that huge upside game because if I'm in the fantasy playoffs, I want the guy who's going to have the biggest games.
Yeah, I'm going to go the opposite route there. I'm going to go with Julio Jones just for the fact that he's been the more consistent guy, and his quarterback is much better than OBJ's. Eli Manning looked good, but he looked good against my 49ers, which their secondary is terrible. So I wouldn't put too much stock in the game that he just had. And then there's been talk, I know this past weekend, their backup quarterback, Luetta, or whatever, was inactive for that game. But there was talk before his incident where he got arrested that he might actually take over at the end of the season. And if that does come to fruition, I don't want anything to do with that Giants offense. I know Eli's been terrible, but a rookie quarterback on that Giants team is going to be even worse. So I'm going to lean Julio and go with the consistency that he's been putting up all year.
Yeah, I said OBJ's heating up, man. It's crazy. I didn't realize when I put that on there, they're right next to each other in fantasy scoring.
Really?
So they're 8 and 9
right
now. 182 and 179 points. And yeah, OBJ's heating up for me. I'm leading that way. Next up, we got some friends on the edge of being good tight ends. Ebron or Njoku?
I think we kind of talked about Ebron and his amount of routes that he's running and the snaps he's getting. Njoku's on the opposite end. He's getting tons of targets, tons of snaps. I think Njoku is where I'm going to lean here. He hasn't put up some big fancy days lately, but he has done it. And I want to go with opportunity, and I think Njoku's getting the opportunity, whereas Ebron just kind of got lucky this past week.
I agree. I'm going Njoku too. I've been kind of waiting for him to break out, and I think it's bound to happen.
It's got to happen.
Yeah.
All right. Now we're going to go with two top-tier tight ends. One of them is injured, so let's assume he comes back this next week. George Kittle or Gronkowski? The fact that we're even asking this question is crazy.
I know, it feels gross, right? And I feel even worse than say Kittle. Kittle's volume's there. He's healthy. He's young. And he's kind of similar to what Gronk was, man. Like, he's that big athletic kid who just lumbers down the field, dominates after the catch.
Yep.
And going forward, I'll take a chance on him, especially since he's the only real weapon they have right now.
Yep. I'm with you as well. I think I'm going Kittle. I'm going Kittle over pretty much every tight end except for Ertz and Kelsey, I believe. Maybe O.J. Howard in that mix as well, but I think Kittle is he's the beast. He's getting the volume. Even on games where they don't put up a lot of points, he's getting tons of targets, tons of receptions. We've seen his upside. I think he had that one-handed catch 2 weeks ago and took it to the house. So I think he's just he's an awesome talent. And Gronkowski, I think if you had him, you're worried with that back injury that could linger all year. And even when he was healthy, he wasn't doing that good. So I don't want anything to do with Gronk this year for sure.
So I'm excited to see where Kittle is in the offseason, and if he's going to get tight end one consideration in Dynasty.
I think he has to. I think there's no way around it.
He's so young. All right, next up we got Amari Cooper or Sammy Watkins.
This one's tough because I don't know if I love Amari Cooper, but he has been better since he's been with the Cowboys. Watkins plays in a much better offense, but this one's tough. I think I'm going to lean Watkins just for the upside. I don't think Amari has the upside that Watkins does just based on the offense that they're in. I think Watkins can be put in your flex, and he can basically win you a week if you need to, whereas Amari, he could be good. He could be average to worse. I don't think there's going to be any huge gains for Amari, so I'm going to lean Watkins just for his upside.
I'm actually going the opposite on you on this one. I've always liked Cooper's talent. I think he's just been on a bad football team. And I don't think Dak's as bad as people say he is. And he's their only weapon. He's gotten a ton of volume the last couple of weeks. And I think the more they get used to each other, the more it will come. And Watkins, the third or fourth option on that offense. And Cooper's number 2. So that's why I'm going to lean his, just because of volume and opportunity to be the top target.
All right, fair enough. I'm actually trying to find a tweet here because you mentioned Dak. Let me see if I can find it really quick here.
Was it the one about him being a top 10 over the past few weeks?
Yes, that's it. So let me see if it's... So since week 6, Dak Prescott is QB 10, which is better than Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson, Phillip Rivers, Kirk Cousins, and Matt Stafford. So just to kind of give you an idea that Zach is not as bad as people think he is. I mean, at least in fantasy, maybe in real life quarterback scenarios, he's not that great. But those quarterbacks have been, on an average point per game basis, have been worse than Dak Prescott. So you could do worse. And with Cooper, I think he's even better. Let's get talk on Dak, but he's had no weapons for how long now? He gets ripped on, but he does not have a good supporting cast outside of Zeke. He's been thrown to Cole Beasley for the past 2 years. He's a top guy. Yeah.
Cole Beasley doesn't start on most teams. And Dak does own his legs. That's why he has that nice fantasy value. But give him weapons, man. Cooper's a good step in the right direction.
Agreed.
And I think Cooper's a fantastic route runner. He's got some drop issues, but he's great with the ball in his hands, and he can make big plays.
All right, fair enough. The next one we got here is 2 big-name quarterbacks. If you're making this decision, then you have some good problems to have in fantasy. But Patrick Mahomes or Drew Brees for the rest of the season, who would you rather have?
I have to look at the schedule on that, but I'd have to say probably say Mahomes, just because They love airing it out, man. I think Breeze will still have games where they go heavy on the run because they do have Kamara and Ingram who can get a game out of hand really quick. And their defense is better, so I think they'll have a lot closer games with game script. I think Kansas City's going to be in shootouts, and he's going to have to sling it.
Yeah, I'm pulling up their schedule now. It looks like Mahomes, of course, has the Rams this weekend, then a bye. They got the Raiders, so you love that. Baltimore, that'll be a tough matchup. A division game with the Chargers, and they finish out with Seattle. Let me quickly pull up Drew Brees'.
I got Breeze.
You got Breeze?
Breeze has Philly. Yep. He has Philly, Atlanta, Dallas, Tampa, Carolina, Pittsburgh, and I'm changing my vote. Like, those are some games where Drew Brees lights up Atlanta every time.
Yep, and he's at home.
Philly's pass defense is decimated. Dallas is okay in secondary. Tampa doesn't know what defense is.
Yep.
Carolina's not that great, and Pittsburgh doesn't really have a secondary either.
Yep. And Carolina, I think,
Drew Brees is going to be QB1 going forward. Probably going to win the MVP.
Agreed. I think in Carolina, you kind of think of them being a good defense, but they've given up the most big plays this season for any team in the league. So, obviously, big plays is Drew Brees' thing. So, I agree. I think Drew Brees is where I'm going as well.
Yeah. Next up, we got Drew Brees' backfield mate, Alvin Kamara or Barkley.
I think I go Kamara just based on the offense that he's in. They're going to put up a ton of points. I think we saw last night. Barkley had a pretty decent game, but he wasn't otherworldly like he has been in the past. And I think there's more games like that are going to happen for him where he's good, but he's not Kamara great. And I think that I'm going to lean Kamara with that offense, especially with those matches we just talked about. It's going to be a lot of high-scoring games with Pittsburgh and in the Rams, of course, this weekend. And we mentioned Tampa Bay. That'll be a high-scoring game. Atlanta Falcons will be a high-scoring game. So, yeah, give me all the Kamara I can get.
Yeah, I'd probably go Kamara because of the offense, but I didn't realize this week here, this past against San Fran is the worst fantasy production Barkley's had all year.
Yep.
Which was 14 PPR points, which
Still
is
pretty good.
Fantastic.
Yep.
So, how about, I'm just throwing this in there, how about Barkley or Connor? Connor's one step ahead of him fantasy points scored on the year.
I think on this one, I'm going to go with Barkley. And I don't really have a good reason why. I just think Barkley's usage is higher. Barkley doesn't have Antonio Brown and Juju to contend with for targets. I think Barkley will continue to get all the usage as possible in that offense. So I think that I lean Barkley, but I don't have a great reason why. What about you?
Yeah, I probably lean Barkley. I think his volume's guaranteed, and Connor has some tougher matchups going forward, and some games that are going to be heavy passing games. So we'll probably go Barkley on that. Plus, I think Barkley's just out of this world talent.
Yes, definitely. All right, two receivers we got here. We got Allen Robinson, who seems to be back and healthy, and Luck's favorite target, Mr. T.Y. Hilton. Who do you like rest of the season?
I think I'm going to go T.Y. Hilton. That's Andrew Luck's dude. Andrew Luck's been just lights out, man. He's bounced back. If you got him where he was getting drafted this year, he's doing well for you. But Allen Robinson still scares me a little bit because that offense is very good right now, but it's inconsistent. There's a lot of weapons that rotate what's good, and there's not a lot of weapons in Indy. So just off of what's around him, I'm going to go Hilton.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the Bears want to run the ball and play defense, so their offense may not be pass-heavy. Whereas T.Y. Hilton in that Andrew Luck offense will be pass heavy consistently, and I think T.Y. Hilton, will be the better receiver going forward. Andrew Luck, of course, being you had him as a bust last week, in our trust or bust against Jacksonville, and he definitely proved us wrong because he lit them up. So,
dude, I'm so happy he's doing good again this year, man. League's better with a good Andrew Luck.
Agreed.
And our last one. We got two of the hot names right now at running back, Nick Chubb versus Aaron Jones.
This one's tough. This one is tough. I think I'm going to lean Aaron Jones for two reasons. One, it's a better offense. More scoring opportunities are going to be for Aaron Jones. And two, he has that backfield to himself now. I think Nick Chubb is still, game script dependent. If they get down by a lot, it might be a Duke Johnson game, whereas Aaron Jones is pretty much on the field most of the snaps. I know they still have Jamal Williams there, but Aaron Jones, I think last week played 67% of the snaps, I believe. So I think he is the better one going forward. What do you think?
Flipping on you again this one. I'm going Nick Chubb. I love Nick Chubb. He was one of my favorite running backs this year coming out of the draft. He was my RB3 coming out, and he's got a ton of volume. Since they got rid of Carlos Hyde, his carries has been 18, 18, 22, 20. So he's getting the ball an absolute ton. It doesn't matter if Duke Johnson's there. He's getting the rushing attempts. So I'm leaning that way. Aaron Jones had his best game, but it was 15 attempts. That's the most he's had. They're not a running team.
That's a good point.
And I think Cleveland's trying to be, and Chubb's their franchise back, and they know he's their franchise back. Green Bay's just realizing this now, that they have a good running back. They just forgot, and they have to have Aaron Rodgers tell their coaches.
Yeah, I think they forgot what running backs were in general. Like, oh, wait a minute, what are these guys that we can hand the ball off to in the backfield?
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous, but give me Nick Chubb. I want him in Dynasty so bad everywhere. I know I'm going to overpay for him this offseason. Yep. I think he's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm definitely happy that I got Nick Chubb. It's funny because actually I put Nick Chubb on my taxi squad thinking that I wouldn't be able to use him until next year. That didn't last. I had to pull him off, and now he's been starting for my team, so he's been awesome the past few weeks.
Poor Carlos Hyde just keeps getting made expendable, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't understand why. I mean, he's a good running back. Why they keep shipping him away?
Yeah, but yeah, I love Nick Chubb. He's a talented dude, and they have some games where they're going to be close and running the ball a lot.
Good stuff. All right, man, that's the show for today. Let's tell everybody where we can follow you at.
Follow me on Twitter at Ryan Searfoss, at FantasyFBConnect. You'll see me tweet a lot of Lamar Jackson plays this weekend out of pure excitement. Find me on weekly waiver articles here. You can find me at Dominate Fantasy Football, do the streamers, and you can find me on Fantasy Football Connect on Facebook and basically anywhere.
All right, good stuff. Of course, you can always follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. You can follow the show at TalkLoudRadio.com. You can follow it in the Going For Two app, also on GoingFor2.com, and pretty much everywhere. All the iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music, YouTube, anywhere you want to be able to find it. Just search for Talk Loud Radio or search for the Armchair Fantasy Show, and we should show up. That's a wrap. Have a good weekend.
See you.